The Stage Door Show, celebrating the independent artist. With your host, Dave Hondel.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Stage Door Show tonight. This is Dave Hondel. Very excited tonight. We have Jaiden Kaine with us, actor. He's been in so many movies and TV shows. I mean, the Vampire Diaries, Killing Lincoln. He was Zip in Luke Cage, and he was in Valor and so many others. So we're glad to welcome on the show Jaiden Kaine. Jaiden, thanks for being with us tonight.
It's an absolute pleasure to be here, Dave. Thanks for having me.
I know we were talking a little bit about, a little bit before we started recording about you're in Atlanta right now working on a project. What project are you working on?
Yes, I'm working on, it's an untitled Marvel piece, actually. So you know how they get with these. So I can't actually say what it is, but it's definitely action. And there's this unwritten rule where if you do one project, you're not supposed to be on another one.
Oh, really?
Now, yeah. Unless you're playing the same character.
Okay.
So.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So yes, I can't spill the beans, but I do actually have a place here now because I've been working out here so much for the last about 6 years now.
We'll talk about Atlanta because, we talked about this a little bit before, but I mean, if you're in entertainment of any kind, actor, singer, artist of any kind, I mean, really Atlanta is the place to be right now, right?
100%. It is a gateway to getting into the entertainment industry and not receiving as many roadblocks as you would if you were in New York or LA. They're very inclusive, and I mean, I've had dinner at casting directors' homes.
Yeah.
And they're giving me coffee and tea, and this stuff just doesn't happen in LA.
Right.
Yeah, it's a very different thing. So even though we live in an age where everything is like self-tapes now and stuff, they have to at least meet you first, and they will for coffee and, just to get a sense of who you are. Like we are accustomed to doing this in New York and LA historically, in the room. But even back then, they were meeting people for coffee and tea. It's that Southern hospitality.
Yeah,
Dave.
For sure. I mean,
It was very present out here.
I can understand that. Just having a lot of friends that are in the business down there, they say the same thing. It's just a different vibe, a different, kind of way of doing business. And I think it's great that it's like that. And I think nowadays with the entertainment business, sometimes not always getting a good rap. I think, in places like New Orleans and places like Atlanta and some, Wilmington, North Carolina, and some of these great towns that there's a lot of work in. It's just more of that kind of down home feel, and it's more comfortable for the actor, I suppose, to spend more time there. They most feel like they're at home, right?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely, 100%.
At what point did you start getting the passion for acting? Because I know you were born in New York City. I mean, there's entertainment everywhere there. So when did that start for you?
So little known secret about Mr. Kaine. My dad was actually a big playwright in New York on the independent circuit.
Okay.
Right. So he would always have me in his plays, and I was actually going to go to med school to become a gynecologist. A lot of folks don't know that.
Wow.
Another long story. And how I really got the passion for it. My dad always used to say, "You're going to be an actor. You're going to be an actor." I was like, "No, I'm not going to be an actor. I'm going to have a real job," that kind of thing. But I was dating this young lady who had her own crafty business.
Okay.
So one day, I had went to go see her on set, and she had just finished cooking for folks. And, I'm a self-confessed suit pimp. I love suits, haberdashery, hats,
Sure.
and bow ties and pins and Oxford shoes, watch timepieces and that sort of thing. So I was pretty dressed up that day. So I'm chatting with her, and the assistant director runs up and says, "Oh my God, you guys look perfect. We're going to need you." "What do you mean you're going to need us?" No, because we had two actors who didn't show up, and you guys are the same complexion, same height. We're gonna need you on set.
Oh wow!
No, you don't understand. This is my truck. I'm feeding you.
Yeah.
He's not even an actor. He's my boyfriend.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what's going on? And they go back and forth for a few seconds, and then he says, "Name your price." So she looks at me, and I kind of shrug my shoulders, and she says, $2,000. And he says, Done.
I'm
going to send wardrobe to you.
Yeah.
So he walks away, and she's like, "Well, should I have asked for more?" I was like, "You might have wanted to ask me if I wanted to do this."
Yeah.
Anyway, So what happens in the scene was, okay, first of all, it was BG work,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And the two leads, I'm not going to say what it was. I'm not going to say who it was.
Sure.
Because I don't like to do that with actors.
Right.
Especially if I didn't like what they did.
Yeah.
So to make sure the scenes matched, they needed someone my height, my complexion, as well as her, right next to the leads.
Right.
So we could hear everything that they were saying. We were supposed to be pantomiming, right?
Yeah.
I was mortified at what the actor was doing.
Wow.
The guy.
Yeah.
He was terrible. He wasn't listening to her. His responses were off. And I'm saying to her, because it's like a ballroom scene. We finished the whole scene. I drop her off later that night, and she kisses me. She says, "Good night, my actor boyfriend." I was like, "Oh God, you sound like that." So I get home. I can't sleep. I'm tossing, I'm turning, and I opened up my eyes, and I said, "Jesus Christ!" And that's when I got the bug.
Yeah, that was it.
It happened that quickly. Yeah. It happened that quickly. So then I decided to switch majors, leave school. I was attending Bucknell at the time. I got into Yale, thank God.
Yeah.
And the rest is history.
Well, it's when you were talking, I was like, Jaiden, your dad was like, hey, maybe you can be an actor, and you're trying to be a doctor. And normally parents are saying, what are you doing acting? You should be a doctor or a lawyer.
Yeah,
it was
totally.
the opposite, right?
Yeah, well, my parents were very inclusive. My mom was a singer, and she's a psychiatric nurse. But
okay.
Before she had me, she was an aspiring actress.
Okay.
A lot of people don't know that. And she was a great singer. And the reason that she didn't pursue her craft was because she fell pregnant with me.
Oh, okay.
So, when it came to the arts, they've been supportive because he had a drug problem. So he never really saw his star rise. And
sure.
Even after he was clean for so many years, a wonderful writer. So I asked him one day, since you complain about how bad the writing is for television, why don't you write for television? And he admitted to me, he says, well, I got to be honest with you. I feel that if I were to be very successful, I don't know, I might just kill myself with drugs again. And I don't want to take that risk.
Wow.
He passed back in 2014. But I just decided to take that torch and run with it.
Wow.
So that's what I've done. Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah.
I know a lot of the roles that you played. So, you've played, like when Killing Lincoln, you played an actual character that was, from history. Yeah. So talk about how is your process when you're actually playing a character that was a real person? How do you research that? And especially something that long ago, how was that process of researching that character? I'm curious.
Well, thank God for Google. Right?
Yeah.
I'm a self-confessed sexy nerd. I'm terrible at math, but I've always been really good at reading, writing, and comprehension.
Sure.
I've read the dictionary a few times. Yeah, that's
wow.
fun, right? So I love doing research.
Mm-hmm.
So part of my process first is just to find out who was this person, find out if they have any living relatives. If that's not the case, I just compile a lot of data, and I really dive into what the writers, what their process is in terms of what they're really, the story that they're trying to tell. Like, what is this character's goals?
Sure.
Everybody has goals and something, and I think that's where a lot of us as actors miss the mark. Once I find out what their goals are, then I really get into the script.
Right. Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Because I find that to be the foundation to the building, and then I start putting on, the studs and the windows and framing and that kind of thing. And then in terms of the voice, I look up how people, or I'll look at period pieces to see how people from that particular region spoke at that particular point in time.
Wow.
Now, I tell you the funny thing about it, I had to ride a horse, and I'd never ridden a horse.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Okay.
I'd never ridden a horse. So I had actually fibbed. I said that I could ride a horse. I did not know how to ride a horse.
Wow.
As soon as I got back to New York, I'm looking at all of these YouTube videos because I'm a visual learner.
Sure.
And then I got on a horse about 2 days after that. And the trainer said, oh, how many years you been riding? I said, this is YouTube, and I learned. I'm a visual learner.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's part of my process. But each one of us have very different processes. But
wow,
that's what works for me. And it varies all depending on what the project is.
That's incredible. I mean, I always wonder how actors get into that space. And another thing is theater. Have you ever acted in the theater? I mean, on a live stage in front of audiences and.
In my dad's place.
Yeah.
Tons of them.
Sure.
Yes.
Sure. Talk about the difference. Because I know a lot of people who've never acted. I mean, you're in front of a live audience. If you mess up, you have to improv to kind of change that.
The show must go on.
Right. And then, but in film, you can cut it and do it 20 times. And in TV,
right.
you're under the clock.
You better not do it 20 times, you get fired.
Yeah, exactly.
Still to this day, theater is undoubtedly my favorite.
Wow.
Because you get the interaction from the audience.
Sure.
But the difference is that when you're doing theater, it's about the relationships between characters, and it's about speaking out to the rafters.
Sure.
Because there's people way out in the back that have to hear you. You can't do that in television.
Right. Right.
In television and film, it's about your interior dialogue.
Right.
So people have got, because in a close-up, it's going to be like this, right?
Right.
So it's all about your eyes. You have to be a lot more still, and you have to have ironclad intentions, solid goals. You have to know exactly where you're going, and you have to communicate that more through your eyes than even your mouth.
Right.
So that's the difference. But when we're on the stage, can't do that because people way back there, they're not going to be able to see what's going on. So they have to actually see that interaction. I actually needed a coach for about almost 2 years that taught me how to reel it back.
Okay.
Less, Jaiden, less until I got to the point that I was primed for TV. But I had to reverse engineer it. It took a while. It's not something that's easy.
I mean, sometimes subtle things, especially when you're on TV and you have these close-ups, like you said, the subtlest things will come across as huge moments if you're not careful. Yeah. Right?
100%.
Speaking of that, what was your most challenging role in all of the things that you've done in TV and film? What was your most challenging?
Scimitar in Valor. Yeah. The language that he spoke, I had never spoken. Sudanese, so I had to do a deep dive into that, even from as a matter of fact, that's why I got booked.
Okay.
Because I was the executive producer said you were the only actor who actually translated the audition, which was in English, to this Sudanese language.
Wow.
And did it in that language.
Wow. Incredible.
That was hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Super, super hard. Luckily for me, most of that role was in English, but I still did battle at times. It was challenging to actually enunciate some of these words and to have these interactions with my other co-stars,
right.
And know exactly what we were talking about. Because, in TV and film, you don't really have time like theater to rehearse.
Right.
You get there, you're going to do your COVID day. Well, back then, no. This was pre-COVID.
Sure.
So you get there like the day before, you're at the hotel, and the next day is game time.
Yeah.
So definitely Khalid Scimitar in Valor.
Now, I know the Vampire Diaries, you were Bo in the Vampire Diaries, and you did 12 episodes on that. I mean, I know there's a lot of Vampire Diaries fans out there. So how was your experience on that series?
Magic. I'll tell you something as well. So when the breakdown came out, Bo was supposed to be 6'3", blue eyes, blonde hair. So obviously they booked Jaiden Kaine, right?
Wow.
That literally was the breakdown.
Yeah.
So I was the wild card.
Yeah.
It's an interesting story actually, because they had auditioned me at least on average once a month for almost 2 years. And at that time I was attending the Producers Club in New York City. Mm-hmm. And my coach, Anthony Abeson, there, every week he'd have, the students rise and say, okay, so what's your week been like? And I said, oh yeah, it's been great auditioning. Oh, what audition did you have? I said, oh, there's another one for the Vampire Diaries, and my colleagues like, oh my God, the Vampire Diaries, that's so amazing. And I was like, yeah. And Anthony's like, you don't sound so excited. I was like, no, I am. It's just they've been auditioning me for like 2 years now. Yeah. He says, oh, so what do you think about the show?
Yeah.
And I said, what do you mean? And he said, what do you mean? What do I mean? What do you think about the show? And I said, oh, well, it's my fiance's best show, but I haven't watched it yet.
Right.
And he said, wait a moment. They've been auditioning you for 2 years and you never even watched the show? And he said, why? And I said, I like Law and Order. And he said, you don't deserve to be on the show.
Oh, boy.
Sit down. And you get that kind of embarrassment.
Yeah.
You want the ground to open up and just kind of take you.
Yeah.
But that's why I love Anthony.
Yeah.
Because he challenged me.
Sure.
And I knew he was right. And I went home and then I watched 3 seasons of it.
Oh, okay. Binge watched 3 seasons.
I binged 3 seasons. Yes, I did.
Yeah.
And then it hit me. I said, oh, I wasn't dressing the way I needed to. Oh, I didn't have the tone right. Oh, sure. I didn't have the speed of the dialogue right.
Sure.
So many things I did wrong. And I said, they better not send me another audition. I'm going to murder it.
Yeah, right.
So here's what happens.
Okay.
Dave, you're going to love this. So I get the next audition, and it wasn't for both. It was for In-N-Out co-star, right?
Yeah.
So I get a call from my agent, and she says, I have good news and I have bad news. And I was like, what? They absolutely loved your audition. They want to book you.
Nice.
I said, what's the bad news? But they're not. What? What do you mean they're not?
Yeah.
Well, the casting director says he has another role in mind. And I was like, oh my God. Now I want to do the show.
Right. Yeah.
So she said, I don't recommend. If you want it, you got it.
Sure.
They loved you for it. But he thinks you'd be much better suited for another role. But here's the thing. It's the white guy. He's a little taller than you, blonde hair, blue eyes. I was like, huh? She says, I know. You're going to be the wild card. But I think you should do it. So in the audition, I was chained to a chair and I'm being interrogated. But everything has to come. So all my interior dialogue has to come through my eyes.
Wow.
And it did.
Yeah. Wow.
And they loved it. You're on for the whole season.
Wow.
So that's what happened.
It's a great story. So you didn't even have to say one word during the audition. It was all with your eyes?
All with my no. See, here's the thing. See, that's what people don't understand. When you're mute, it's not that you don't have anything to say. You have wonderful things to say.
Sure.
Tons of things to say.
Right.
You just can't say them.
Sure.
It comes through your eyes.
Through your eyes. Wow. That's amazing.
So that's what it was.
Yeah.
And so that was a thrill ride.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And I got tons of fans as a result of it. It was
I know.
Definitely, definitely.
Talk about
into TV anyway.
And then and also with our platform is helping independent artists, and one of the things I like to do with actors and singers is kind of give advice a little bit. If there's one piece of advice, if there's one main thing that you would say to somebody that's getting into acting, what kind of advice would you give them just getting into it? Maybe a pitfall that you ran into, or something that you would probably say to somebody, try to avoid this. What would that be?
Okay, you ready for this, Dave?
Yep.
Whenever I get asked this question, it's always a little controversial for me. Acting is the wife that you are madly in love with, who cheats on you all the time, but you're in love with her.
Wow. And
you can't leave her.
Wow.
You have to be a little crazy and obsessed to do this.
Yeah.
But, because I've met a lot of actors who say, oh, yeah, well, I'm trying it out. I'm going to see how it goes. And it never goes.
Right.
You have to be, you got to be obsessed with this.
And committed.
Not only, the accolades and all of that. You have to be obsessed with being your best at it.
Right.
And this is where the advice that you thought would come out of my mouth comes out.
Sure.
You have to stay open.
Right.
You know, oftentimes, and this has come up with me as well, because I've had a lot of coaches over the year. I'm a lifetime student.
Sure.
Right. And these 3 words will always come up. I know that. You know, when someone's trying to educate you, a new coach, you're on an online intensive, was most, you know, pretty much everything is online now on Zoom calls.
Sure.
That those 3 words will come up, and they're dangerous words because it's imperative that we stay open.
Right.
And the third thing is, don't quit. Don't quit.
Right.
One of my first acting coaches, this was before school, was Tasha Smith from Why Did I Get Married?
Okay.
She was a really, really tough one. But she said to me, always be acting. Always be acting, no matter what it is. If it's local theater, if it's just running scenes with a friend in your living room.
Yeah.
That's the advice that I would give. I mean, there's a ton of other things as well. But those are the benchmarks.
Yeah.
Undoubtedly, yeah.
If there was one dream role, Jaiden, that you could play, it could be anything. You know, what dream role do you have?
Boy Omar Sy's role in Ronin, it's just magic.
Yeah.
And if Marvel were to do Silver Surfer, I'd want to do that.
Definitely. Yeah.
Silver Surfer is one that they definitely need to do. He was just so mysterious, and he didn't say much.
Right.
But he was a man about his action.
Yeah.
I would love to play Silver Surfer.
Yeah.
So I'm putting that out into the universe.
Amazing. Yeah. That's great. Now, I know you're in Atlanta. We talked about that earlier, but you spent time in New Orleans, and I was just there this week. And I know we were talking about food, and you asked if I had tried crawfish.
Char-grilled oysters and some crawfish.
Never tried crawfish, so I have to go back and try that. But I did say that I tried shrimp and grits, which was amazing. So when I go back, what else do I have to try there? I mean, I know crawfish and what did you say? I tried gumbo, by the way.
Char-grilled oysters. So there's a great place called Acme.
Okay.
And it's off Bourbon Street. I actually was based in New Orleans for like 3.5 years.
Okay.
Out of school in New York. Yeah. So they put for the char-grilled oysters, they actually, oh Lord, it's so good. Garlic, lemon, some kind of decadent sauce. They put them on the Barbie. They grill them.
Right.
I've always liked clams. I've never really been a fan of oysters.
Yeah.
But like I said, stay open, right? So I had a friend who said, no. You need this in your life. I was like, dude, I don't like oysters. He was like, can you stay open? And when he said that, I thought about Anthony. I was like, okay, Anthony Yates. And I was like, all right, let me stay open. And I tasted it and I loved it.
Well, as long as it's not raw, right? It's char grilled.
Some raw oysters I have actually come to love as well. Kumamoto oysters.
Oh, okay.
Now, I think you can only find those out like Boston for some reason.
Yeah.
I've never seen them anywhere else in the country, just Boston and Maryland, right?
Right.
But going back to New Orleans, if you do crawfish, you definitely have got to do one of the, they have Crawfish Fest.
Oh, okay.
Like, you have to go during crawfish season, which I think we're in June now. I think that ended in May. Okay. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But when I tell you, you walk around in New Orleans, it's like crawfish genocide.
Right. It's like,
no, Dave, it's crawfish carcasses everywhere, and they clean them up nightly.
I'm still in awe of Bourbon Street. I can't believe how crazy that place. It was a Wednesday night, and I'm like, I was talking to a cop. I'm like, is it this crazy? Like every night? He goes, every night. He goes, wait till Friday and Saturday come. I'm like, I'm still in awe. I thought Vegas was crazy. This place is like insane.
Yeah. We call it the Vegas of the South. It definitely is. I fell in love with the people down there. The culture, the history.
It's amazing.
Music.
Yeah.
It definitely touched my soul. The African and French culture, the mix is just... Yeah. You have. I recommend everybody experience it. And go to Jazz Fest if you can as well.
Yeah, I heard that.
As well as the Mardi Gras. Yeah.
I have to. Well, before we end the podcast, there's one question that I ask every artist that we have on. And when it's all said and done, Jaiden, what kind of legacy do you want to leave? What do you want people to walk away with when they think of Jaiden Kaine?
That I made it a little easier for people of color who are super talented to be in this industry as well. We've made a lot of leeway especially in the last, I want to say 5 years, socially, politically, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I know, man, I was a Calvin Klein model before I got into acting, before this overseas, and that was challenging.
Sure.
But entering this industry, it has literally been the most challenging thing that I've ever experienced and the most rewarding.
Sure.
And when I do leave this space called Earth, I'd like to know that I made it a lot easier for people who were just talented. I know actors way more talented than I have no ego when it comes to that. I've seen them on stage and I've been blown away. And, afterwards I'm like, talk to me. And it's challenging. And luckily for me, I had it really rough as a kid. We moved around a lot because of things that were going on personally in my family and stuff.
Sure.
So it's always been relatively easy for me to just hop up, move to another city, move to another country, So I always say, don't be afraid of the unknown. I'd rather, I always like to use this parallel. Like if I was to be ejected out of an airplane, I want to know that there's a chance that I might make it. So even if I crash and burn on impact, at least I tried, instead of, I'm just going to stay here and hopefully we'll land. I just want to know that I tried it and I did it, and that I made it easier for folks. That's why I started. This was before we actually started it. I had did this non-for-profit called the Focus Group, forward on course, so successful, when I was living in New Orleans, to give back to the industry. Theatrical actors wanted to cross over into television and film, and I saw some wonderful things, and they're still acting and they're still doing their thing, and their training wheels are off. And when I turn on the TV or even my laptop and I see them, it just puts a smile on my face, just to know I had some small footprint in that walk towards their success. So that's my thing.
That's amazing. Jaiden, it's been a real pleasure having you on my show. Thanks, you're welcome back anytime, and best of luck to you in the project that you're working on right now. Thanks, and like I said, best of luck to you.
Thanks,
man.
And I always say, be good, and if not, be better.
Absolutely.
You want to flip, all right?
All right, thanks, Jaiden.
Peace and blessings.